Hello everyone, Fred here. In this installment of TPP Dynamite, I'm going to be reviewing the young adult horror thriller novel There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. First things first though, if you haven't already, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I post film, book, and TV series reviews. I do opinion pieces on entertainment, news, and affairs. I'm also an author of adult and young adult mystery novels. To date, I've released 3 books: The Women in White, The Lethal List, and most recently, Textbook Murder. They're all on sale now, and there are purchase links in my video description below. With that in mind, and without further ado, welcome to my spoiler-filled review of Stephanie Perkins's YA horror thriller novel, There's Someone Inside Your House. Love hurts. Makani Young thought she'd left her dark past behind her in Hawaii, settling in with her grandmother in landlocked Osborne, Nebraska, and attending Osborne High School. She's found new friends and has even started to fall for mysterious outsider Ollie Larson. But her past isn't far behind. Then, one by one, the students of Osborne High began to die in a series of gruesome murders, each with increasingly grotesque flair. As the terror grows closer and her feelings for Ollie intensify, Makani is forced to confront her own dark secrets. Though this book was published to considerable popularity in late 2017, I first discovered it more recently when I heard of the Sydney Park-led Netflix film adaptation that dropped just in time for Halloween last year. There's Someone Inside Your House is marketed as a YA slasher book, a novelized send-up of horror classics like Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, so it makes sense that it would eventually be made into an actual horror movie. However, as tends to happen with many cinematic versions of popular novels, this book's film adaptation was widely panned among both audiences and critics, who seemed to view it as a derivative and unfocused imitation of better horror movies that also tries too hard to fit into woke culture. Curiosity got the better of me though, partially because I've never heard of a YA slasher novel before, and partially because I just wanted to see how the book itself stacked up against the much lambasted movie. So after inspecting the movie and its press, I decided to give the book a read to see how it compared. First, the good. There's Someone Inside Your House, the novel easily outclasses its film counterpart both in story structure and overall presentation. This is my first Stephanie Perkins novel, but my understanding is that her area of expertise is YA romance, and it shows here. She does a very good job of timing and executing the slowly deepening relationship between Makani and Ollie, who are both essentially outsiders looking for sense and a place while coming to terms with very dark pasts and horrible parental situations. Stephanie also proves herself a veteran author with her strong command of diction. I've never had the pleasure of living in Hawaii or the misfortune of being stuck in Nowheresville, Nebraska, but Stephanie describes both locations and their subtleties so well that I feel like a native of both of those areas for having read this book. The descriptions of people, places, thought processes, and things were generally outstanding. The dialogue mostly flows well and feels natural for teenagers and adults of the sort presented in this book. As could be expected of a book billed as a horror movie in novel form, there is quite a bit of blood and gore in this book, primarily the last fifth. All of that agrees with me mightily. I myself prefer messier murder mysteries. Something about the no-holds-barred descriptions of the aftermath of fictional killings just makes the stories seem more realistic and enrapturing to me. Of course, I can see how some people might feel differently, and if you find that sort of thing triggering, There's Someone Inside Your House is not the novel for you. Okay, now the bad. The premise of a horror movie novel is an interesting one, but it largely fails in practice here. In fact, this book's stalwart adherence to a basic slasher movie formula becomes its biggest problem because, in abiding by that formula, this book falls victim to most negative tropes that you'll find in the standard B horror movie. The story is not very complex, elevating, or redemptive, though the novel does become an unput-downable affair beginning around its last fifth. The mystery, horror, thriller elements of the tale are just barely strong enough to interestingly hold it together until then. Meanwhile, the biggest bout of character development is a general arc in which Makani learns that one major sin in her past does not have to define her, and that she has friends who love and accept her despite having parents who do not. For YA fiction, both of those lessons are pretty low-hanging fruit. As tends to happen in many modern horror movies, and contemporary YA thriller novels for that matter, there is a rather reductive and stereotypical main character with horrible secrets that don't get revealed until some plot convenient story juncture. Makani spends about half the book fearing that her new friends will uncover her dark secrets, but when said secrets are revealed, the payoff really isn't worth the time taken to get there. Plus, Makani's hidden sins turn out to be very underwhelming and convoluted, involving a substantial amount of backstory with characters who aren't even introduced beforehand. No clues were laid regarding the killer's identity, and said identity was revealed about halfway through the book. That sapped much of the fun for me because I prefer to be kept guessing the murderer's identity until the end of these kinds of stories. When the killer was revealed, it was some random peripheral guy with no discernible motive. The motive was the only mystery that Stephanie left unsolved until the end, but once it was uncovered, it was a disappointing head-scratcher that didn't even begin to justify the wait. This book, perhaps in homage to the horror movies that it emulates, took the downright frustrating route of making the killer an unbelievably invincible force of nature. The murderer, despite being an unassuming teenager, is basically capable of invisibility, teleportation, leaving no trace of himself behind, easily overpowering armed victims who are bigger or more numerous than him, escaping armies of policemen, killing right under their noses, and sustaining critical injuries but feeling no pain from them. So enjoying this book in full requires a high suspension of disbelief on the reader's part. The ending is very rushed. The wrap-up chapter gets maybe 5 pages and leaves many dangling plot threads that are never resolved. The last fifth or so of this book is a frenzied high-speed dash to catch the killer, but once the killer has been neutralized, There's Someone Inside Your House ends with practically no real resolution to the myriad of secondary stories that have been simmering throughout the book. For reference, one of the very few things that the movie adaptation actually did get right was tacking on a more proper finale to tie off the remaining loose ends in a somewhat satisfactory manner. So, brass tacks, this book is a well-written and moderately enjoyable slasher mystery that outshines its film adaptation, but still falls victim to many of the problems that plague most basic horror movies. Essentially, it's another pretty good hair salon or DMV line read, but nothing else really. It's not really good for much else. I give Stephanie Perkins's There's Someone Inside Your House 2.5 cronuts out of 5. At any rate, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are your feelings more complex? Sound off in the comments below. Meanwhile, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe, ring that bell, and hey, follow me on social media as well. So long.